Republicans facing a bloodbath in November? Hi, I'm Chris Castile in the Washington Bureau of the Oklahoman, and I'm here with my colleague in the Bureau, Mark Green, and Senator Jim Inhofe. Senator, the House Republicans have lost 3 special elections in a row in the last few weeks in districts that Republicans had held for a long time. And many pretend that as bad news for November. I was wondering what you think.
Well, I'm just glad that this isn't October. If this were October, I would agree that it's a problem. But you can look back and see all kinds of races in the past where a party, Democrat or Republican, has been down in May, and they come back up. In fact, some people, like Karl Rove, I know, says that you don't really want to be way up there in May. We got 2 issues that I think are going to change the American people. One is, the biggest issue is the cost of gasoline at the pumps. Now, I know this because, as you guys know, I'm back there in Oklahoma and have been for the years I've been up here and get around the state. And that's the issue. That's replaced the Iraq as the number 1 issue. Clearly, the Republicans are on the right side of that, because we're going to show, and we have time to do it, that every time we try to expand the supply of energy, whether it's drilling on ANWR or drilling offshore or the tar sands in Canada or anything to increase energy, the Democrats right down party lines vote against it, and the Republicans vote for it. Refining capacity. If we had all the oil in the world, if you can't refine it, you're not going to be able to do anything. We haven't had any new refineries. And so I had a refinery bill. Both of you remember that well. It's called the Gas Price Act. It actually was encouraging putting refineries in closed military bases, which is really a good idea. And then we provided for EDA grants for surrounding communities. That was killed right down party lines. So the Democrats don't want to refine it. They don't want energy. They don't want oil and gas. They don't want coal. They don't want nuclear. And I think that we need to show that we have adequate time to do that, because we can document where the votes are, that Democrats are opposed to the supply of petroleum, and that has a direct effect on the cost of fuel at the pump.
Senator, back in 1994, when Republicans had a huge year, that's when you won your Senate seat. A lot of Republican candidates linked their Democratic opponents to the very unpopular at that time, Bill Clinton. Do you think Bush is an albatross around the neck of Republican candidates this year?
Yeah, I do.
And why is that?
Well, he's become very unpopular. His numbers are down. His numbers aren't quite that bad in Oklahoma. This normally happens in the last 6 months of a second administration, and so I'm not surprised at all that it's that way. I can't tell you just what issue it is that that's caused his unpopularity. But I do know it's there, and it is very real. So I think you're going to find a lot of people running for office are not going to be having him right there in their front door, and so that's a political reality that seems to transcend party lines.
Senator, to this point, it does not appear that John McCain, who's the presumptive Republican nominee, has been damaged or dragged down by the president's low numbers. And House leaders are talking about candidates across the country this fall trying to link themselves more with McCain and distance themselves from Bush. How do they do that, and will it work?
Well, I disagree with those who say that, because McCain's 2 areas where he's left the Republican Party is primarily it was against drilling on ANWR, and he's embracing some type of cap and trade or some kind of a limitation on CO2, which would be economically very destructive to more in Oklahoma, actually, according to the CRA, the studies that have been made. Oklahoma and Texas would be hit the worst. If we were to pass the Lieberman-McCain cap-and-trade bill, it would cost the average family in my state of Oklahoma $3,300 a year, and they don't get anything for it. Now, it wouldn't make any difference to me how strongly anyone, McCain or anyone else, felt about that. I've got to be honest with the people of my state of Oklahoma, and I will continue to do that. So, it's do you slide over there to the Democrat side to try to pick up independents? I know some people will be doing that. I won't.
Given what many people fear is the climate for Republicans out there, how do you feel about your own race at this point?
Well, my race is going to be tough, not because of I don't even know for sure who my opponent will be. Filing period isn't over. The Democrats are looking for, I think, a Tier 1 opponent for me. I believe I'll be targeted, maybe number 1 in the nation in terms of the same group that targeted Richard Pombo out in California. In fact, I can show you the evidence that they now are going to be pouring literally millions of dollars in against me. It's going to come in the form of 527s, and then perhaps some illegal money. But, you know, it never occurred to me that we'd get to the point in this country that the vast amount of money that can be put in campaigns would be controlled by people like George Soros and Michael Moore and Barbara Streisand and Al Gore, and they're going to be putting millions and millions of dollars in against me. So I think that's my problem, is I'm going to have to figure out how to win a race and spend probably half as much money as my opponent, whomever that is, will have to spend. So it's a wake-up call. The difference between Richard Pombo out in California when he lost his race in '06 and me, as Richard told me, at least I know in advance it's coming. He didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Senator, thanks so much for coming in. Look for more on this and other stories in the Oklahoman.